All right, welcome back to another episode of our podcast. My name is David Levine, founder and CEO of rethink Solutions. And today's topic we are focusing on is the next chapter in law practice, moving past staffing challenges. I'd like to welcome our guest today. So, Sheena, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello. Thank you, David, for having me on here today. My name is Sheena Fioritto, and I'm an attorney in Michigan. And I have been practicing law. It'll be 26 years this year. And I do real estate law. I specialize within that subfield of like condos and HOAs. We call it community association law. And I've been doing that type of law for a long, long time, since 2003. And I've consistently done that, and I was with a firm. I went through being, from being an associate to being a partner, and then having to make changes to stay, with COVID, and then now where I am today, which is self-employed, but with a national firm. Of kind of back to running my own show again, but this time it's just me within a larger framework. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
All right, well, thanks. I'm glad you're joining us today. I'm looking forward to our conversation. So, with that, let me go ahead and jump into our first question related to today's topic, and we'll go from there.
Okay, awesome.
Many law firms are struggling with hiring, retention, and burnout right now. And we can actually probably say that about a lot of industries. But from your perspective, what does moving past staffing challenges actually look like for a modern law practice? And what mindsets or systems need to change first?
That's a great question. Staffing issues, managing personnel, and having a team in place, the people that you need to achieve what you want. That's something I struggled with it for 13 years as a partner with the firm I was with from 2010 to 2023. It's called Salmansky Danner Fiorito. I was one of three partners, and but things are changing so fast now. Like AI to me is like an industrial revolution type of change. So it is affecting everything across the board, especially, in our field in law, really all the way around, and including staffing and personnel. Just for an example, me practicing here in Michigan, I work out of my house 100% of the time, and our firm is 100% remote. So it's no brick and mortar, which is, a lot of cost savings because I know how expensive that is. When I was, you spend a lot of money just renting office space as an attorney sometimes. And so we have that, that's part of the business model at Omnis Law where I practice. But it's like what has happened with AI now, the things you can do, which we don't even still know the potential. Like, to me, it's industrial revolution type level of change. And I can't even really say where it will end up, but I know that once you learn it, it should make staffing issues, at least from my perspective, the type of environment I'm in right now, a lot easier to deal with if you're like me, who's just more or less a solo as far as physically here, right? And that's very different for me to not have a assistant or paralegal 24/7 that I work with, right? So it's going to be crucial to overcome staffing issues for me personally, technology, and it's just I don't even know where it's going to go because it's changing so fast, and there's so many things you can do now you just couldn't do, like, or wasn't even thought of 2 years ago. But the staffing, education, training staff burnout, there's all kinds of challenges that, those things don't change fundamentally across. Those are what they are, and you see them in every setting. I've been in several different types of firm settings now, so I've seen how different firms handle them. And I think I know, generally, I'm not, what works and what doesn't. And, a lot of that was through trial and error as a business owner, as a partner. So that's kind of a general perspective. It's staffing issues with people. I mean, it's more complex than ever, but there's more opportunity than ever to improve it.
So I want to touch on something because you mentioned AI, and through a lot of the conversations we've been having lately with different firms, is a common theme is kind of emerging where we're seeing a lot um, adopting AI and automation and actually involving staff at all levels of the practice to see, okay, how can we streamline? What do you not like doing? What can we take off your plate in order to be more efficient, and cut down overhead, especially for those firms that are operating more on a fixed fee model, or those who don't want to raise client fees because clients are saying we don't want to pay more.
Yes. As far as the AI, there's just some specific examples of things I've looked at for my own practice, like things that would be so helpful to me that otherwise I would need people around me regularly, working with me consistently to do. Like, for example, intake. It's a challenge right now. It has been for me to handle that all on my own in the setting I'm in. Whereas I was used to, before 18 months ago, before I joined this firm, I was, practice in other settings where there were people around all the time and it was the same people and you could walk to them. And, now there are some, I said it to myself and I told Omnis when I first talked to them, I said, look, I don't want to be a solo. I never really that wasn't something I wanted to be, a solo attorney. Like I was like, I know how much work it is and I know how much support you need to do it right. And if you don't have it, it's really hard, and the less support you have, the less well structured it is, the harder it is. And so, but the reason I did end up going with Omnis is because they use technology. They leverage technology to create a virtual law firm. We use the the metaverse basically to unite everybody across the country, and they created their own thing called the Omniverse. And so that's a way, cutting edge thing of a way to interact with personnel and things like that. Like the intake, there are such new, it's like, feels like there's something new every day coming out. Like here, there's a new service that can handle all your phone calls and it sounds like a real person, but it's not. And it's like, well, even if it's just, I don't necessarily need all the bells and whistles of a artificial person that sounds exactly like, but something, certainly some kind of automation or AI driven, not replacement of workers. I don't want to say that, but you know,
Like a supplemental tool.
for sure. And again, for me personally, in a situation where I don't have people around me, and people are, it's not as easy to get the help that is. So you just walk across the room and say, "Here, so and so, could you do this for me?" So there's more self-reliance, but AI, thankfully, the technology and AI provides an opportunity that, to make this not only really workable and not exhausting for me as, being here by myself within the Omnis framework, but maybe even more efficient and productive than I've ever been. Like theoretically, I think that I could, using those things, these tools, and as I learn to use them, I see myself, there's really no limit, I think, to how far I can go, and, hopefully even surpass eventually where I was. The tools are there. It's just a matter of learning them and finding the right ones, and having staff too that understands them and training yourself to use them too.
Oh, perfect. So getting more into the business on this law sounds like it's a very interesting model because again, you kind of work solo, but yet it's a whole virtual firm. Words. So how does that complexity impact how you structure the team workflows and internal processes? Just being virtual.
That's it is more it is it's not easy, even though we have a lot of technology and our firm is very pro implementation of new technology to the extent it's useful. They're always looking for things. They're not anti AI, they're pro AI. But to be clear, my practice is focused on real estate, and I only practice law in Michigan. I've been here since I passed the bar, graduated law school in 2000, and that's all I've ever been. But there's other people in the firm. There are some in other, Michigan attorneys, but they don't necessarily do what I do. So there's lots of different practice areas of different attorneys, both in Michigan and across the country in different states. And, there's IP attorneys and other types. So I'm actually, I think, kind of in the stark minority as to like real estate, because that's my specialty. I don't do IP. I don't do those other things that a lot of people do in the other, states. My practice is real estate. So community association law, nonprofit corporations, and, but my practice, most of it can be done through virtual technology. Of course you have to go to court, when you got to go to court. Court now post COVID is actually, they use Zoom, technology now, where they were so resistant to using it before. They're finally, okay, now we're forced to use Zoom for a hearing instead of having to drive down to Detroit for a 5-minute matter and then drive back, right, for an hour and a half. So that's like what I do is like not necessarily what other people do at Omnis, just to be clear. But the focus of Omnis is to utilize and leverage technology to get a more efficient and more value to the client ultimately for what they're paying, because we use that technology. But it's not easy to implement and learn. There's a learning curve all across in all aspects, right?
What has, I guess, been the biggest challenge in this type of setup to basically allow y'all to focus more on the legal and not as much of that administrative overhead?
There's a lot of challenges and a lot of growing pains, and the firm partners here have readily admitted that and said that to me at like meetings I've had with them. It's not easy, like running a firm in any way, whether it's 3 attorneys or 40, is like across states or within a state. It's hard, and it's hard to do it well. You need to have the right tools, the right people. If you don't have the right team within the system you have, it won't work. Like you could have, I've learned this over time. Like if you could have the greatest system in the world as far as the programs you have, the software you use, the setup, the structure, but if you don't have the people that are willing and able to fill the roles necessary within that structure to accomplish what the structure is designed to do and carry, it won't work. It doesn't matter how good your system is. So, you have to have both, I've learned. And that's the difference to me is if you want to be a firm where people do interact and they're dedicated to working hard and, doing top-notch work, and that's everybody's on the same page. Everybody's working at the same level, and it's, same skill set and same expectations, then it'll work. But it won't work if you don't have the people. I don't care how good your setup is. So the challenges of reaching out, the technology makes it doable now. Like that's one of the great things about Omnis is I've been able to meet new people across the country I would never have met using Teams, chat. We used was it called Viva? Another program is Intrafirm, kind of Facebook, so to speak. Those type of technologies, and there are just a lot of teams, Office 365. But the metaverse is really one of the solutions that Jason Guessing has. They spent time designing their own program here from more or less scratch. We're not using a metaverse application that the one that it's not like a cookie cutter Mark Zuckerberg version. It is the Omnis version that they've created. It took time. I joined the firm in September of 24, and they didn't really roll it out till the end of last year. Finally, the new one, right? And it's great, and it does provide a very unique way that people can interact and feel like they are part of the same, even though they're not physically there, actually in a room together. But if you are with them and you can see each other and walk to the other offices through the metaverse, which we can do, it's just like, I don't know if you've ever played, the Wii computer games or things. It's like that. You have an avatar, and
Yep.
it really is make a difference. And Jason Guessing he's really betting on that being a big part of how this firm can be successful and can work, which wasn't really possible. Like all these technologies, they really enabled us to do things that just weren't possible 10 years ago because of how things were done.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah, no, I'm familiar a bit. We've used a tool similar, probably not quite as immersive, but you can build out your, virtual office and feel like you're there with someone. You can literally walk down the hall. You can open and close the virtual
Yeah.
doors and stuff. So
Yeah. It's so crazy. I mean, first time I saw it, I thought this is so neat, but it's works. I could see the value, the really unique way it does present for people to get to know each other in addition to all the traditional methods. And that's critical in a firm like ours that is basically spread across the country with people that all are doing more or less, lots of different things in lots of different cities. It does create a possibility of really having that feeling of in addition to other things that they do as, as firm functions, it's like when you think about it, it's really impressive to me that we can do as much as we do now, even though it's not perfect yet, but it's incredible how far it's come, in a short period of time.
perfect. So let me kind of transition a little bit here, kind of more just on yourself at the moment. What do you personally enjoy most about your role today, especially compared to earlier stages in your career?
I enjoy being able to be of use and of service to people with, being around for as long as I have. For a long, long time, I've been around. So I kind of feel like at this point, having practiced law in this field since thinking back to when I started doing this type of law, when I joined the firm that and just really specialized in doing this and did it day in and day out. It was George Bush was president and we were about to invade Iraq. So that's how long ago, and it's like, oh my God, it's a long time. But in that amount of time, you can imagine you pick up so many things. I have so many anecdotes that I can share really to be of really tremendous value. And, right off the cuff, I can help clients tell them based on experience that I know, there's something called, there's a black letter law and then there's just good judgment, and to me, I really like the fact that at this stage in my career, at this stage, I don't care so much. I'm not looking to build like a mega firm. In the past, I was trying to build a firm with other people and it's different now for me. My focus is on helping individual clients, customizing my services, tailoring to what they really need and trying to spend the time and just providing value that I earned it. I know I've been, right? And so I know what I know, and that confidence that comes with that, it really makes you feel good about, you can help, you are helping because you've seen this situation, 100 times, 50 times before, whatever. And so it's like you can tell the client, hey, think about this, 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 and you can tell them right off the bat 10 things they didn't even think about that are relevant. But now they know about to think about because you were there before. And so I really enjoy that. Like in the past, like when I just started doing this work, it was different. It was very much like, oh, look up the law and make sure you have the right answer. And but I learned over time, I learned from my mentor, Ed Zolmansky, who was originally my boss when I joined that firm in 2003, became my partner then for 13 years when I became a partner. He's a great, great mentor. And one of the things he taught me was that I learned from going from a young lawyer to where I am now is that there's not just one way to do things. There's never just one answer. There's always a range of answers. Sometimes there's two, sometimes there's five, sometimes there's 50. But as an attorney, your job isn't to find the correct answer. Your job is to find how many, reasonably worthwhile, good solutions you might be able to come up with, and then pick the best one and recommend that to the client and stand behind it and not just like, again, earlier in your career, it's hard it's not as easy to see like, well, you got to do this. I'm strongly recommend, you can do what you want as a client. It's all your choice, but I strongly recommend you do this and you do not do other, ABC. You do XYZ because I know what can happen. And that's hard to do. That's very hard to do when you're younger and don't have that experience and confidence that just comes from going through the battles over the years, blood, sweat, and tears, going to hundreds of board meetings, association meetings like I have, and I've done a ton of educational presentations as well throughout the years on all kinds of stuff. And so I know how boards think, not only because I've been doing this, but I was on a board for 6 years where I lived in Canton on my association board. I lived in the site condominium. So I learned that end of it too. So that, 6 years I spent doing that. So I've accrued all that during my professional career. And it's like having all those different varied experiences are something that just you earn over time. And is really, I value what I've learned, earned and what I've learned. And it's enjoyable to be of service to people, providing them something that was hard earned and is something that is not something they get anywhere else, like the way I do it and the way I present things and the way I deal with my clients, I think.
All right. Well, I appreciate the insight. So this is kind of one of my favorite questions to ask. And I know for you, this is probably unique because you have both the individual, but then there's also the law firm as a whole. But are there any major initiatives or changes currently happening, either individually with what you do or versus, the practice as a whole that, you're kind of excited about or would like to share?
Mm. Do
I
you
mean, I
mean
know you
like
touched on the metaverse piece with the law firm, but any kind of exciting updates coming down from that, or again, even just solo on your end?
well, I mean, I'm involved in lots of different stuff right now, both within the firm, just with my clients, trying to build that out, which is an ongoing project, building relationships, which is exciting, both within the firm, with the other attorneys, and trying to, I have started to create, referral relationships with people now that I can turn to, not just, paralegals, but attorneys. And I'm looking forward to being able to do a lot more of that as going forward now that I've kind of set up a basic framework for myself and a pipeline of work. And, going on from here should be much easier because I think I have a plan now. And I'm looking forward to just carrying it out and seeing where I can take it. But as far as other things I do, I'm involved in nonprofit activities a lot as well, with both with the Michigan Bar Association, LGBTQ law section, on the public policy legislation and amicus committee of that law section for the Michigan Bar. I'm also on the executive council for the board of that law section. And we have, monthly meetings for both the board and the committees and talk about lots of hot button issues that are just, sometimes overwhelming these days as they come in, but it's also something that's very important to me personally. Um, and, it's been a big change for me personally over the years from where I was to where I am now. And it means a lot to me. So those types of activities within the bar, as well as outside of it, I am on a board for a nonprofit organization called Stand with Trans. And that organization is dedicated to supporting and affirming transgender and non-binary youth up to from like age 7 to 23. And it's doing a lot of work that nobody else wants to do, helping a lot of people, a lot of kids, a lot of families, their family members too that nobody else, not a lot of people want to help these days. So again, that's very important to me. So those are things that I've gotten involved in more recent years, and I'm dedicated to, and will always be excited and looking forward to my efforts and trying to be of service there too.
All right. Well, no, I appreciate that. And it sounds like it's some wonderful work with those organizations that you do. I know as we're kind of approaching our time here, just want to see if you have any final thoughts you'd like to share or leave with the audience.
One thing I forgot to, I'm writing a
Yeah,
book,
perfect. Yeah.
so it's kind of in mid production. I'm hoping to finish it this year, which will be about. Well, it's going to be like kind of an anecdotal a collection of stories that also is educational based on everything I've gone through and different different things. So, but as far as things of final thoughts, thanks for having me. I think it's challenging these days to be, whether you're an associate or a partner in a firm or whatever business. It changes. The rate of change is incredible, and part of the challenge is just going to be educating yourself and keeping up with things in that regard with AI, especially. And it's a challenge, but it's going to be exciting to see where it leads, and you have to be willing to do that and see that as a positive. Ultimately, that's going to really make things better for everyone eventually once we know what we're doing with it.
Perfect. Well, Sheena, thank you so much for coming on and sharing kind of your insights and background. I find it very fascinating. For those who'd like to know more or might want to reach out, we'll have all the information in the description below this video. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, David, for having me. Appreciate it.